The controller base and controller classes are both used in ASP.NET Core for creating controllers, but they serve slightly different purposes and are designed for different use cases. Here's a detailed explanation of each, along with their differences. Controller base class. Purpose. The controller base class is the base class for creating API controllers in ASP.NET Core. It provides core functionality necessary for building APIs. Use case. Use ControllerBase when you are building a RESTful API and do not require support for views, i.e., no Razor pages or HTML rendering. Key features of ControllerBase. API-specific features. Provides methods like OK, that request, not found, created, etc. for returning standard HTTP responses. Includes API controller, attribute, typically used for automatic model binding, validation, and error handling. Simplified base class. Does not include support for features specific to MVC web applications, such as rendering views or returning HTML. Attributes and functionalities. Attribute routing, e.g., route, API/controller. Automatic model validation when API controller is used. Provides core API behaviors without the overhead of MVC features. Controller class. Purpose. The controller class is derived from ControllerBase and adds features for MVC applications that return views along with data. Use case. Use controller when you are building an application that requires both API endpoints and the ability to render HTML views. Key features of controller. Full MVC support. Includes support for rendering views, e.g., view, partial view, methods. Can handle actions that return HTML or Razor views. Dual functionality. Allows creating actions for APIs and traditional web applications within the same controller. Additional methods. Methods like view, redirect, file, JSON, etc. for handling web-based responses. Inheritance. ControllerBase. Designed specifically for API controllers. It's the base class for building APIs. Controller. Extends ControllerBase and includes additional features for rendering views. View rendering. ControllerBase cannot return or render HTML views. It's purely for data like JSON or XML. Controller supports rendering views using methods like view and partial view. Purpose. ControllerBase. Optimized for RESTful APIs that return structured data like JSON or XML. Controller. Used in MVC applications where you might need to return both API data and HTML views. Methods. ControllerBase provides API-related methods such as OK, bad request, and not found for standard HTTP responses. Controller includes all ControllerBase methods and adds web-specific methods like view and redirect. Default use case. ControllerBase, best suited for backend services or microservices exposing APIs. Controller, ideal for web applications combining APIs and web page rendering. Overhead. ControllerBase, lightweight because it excludes unnecessary MVC features like view rendering. Controller, slightly heavier due to the inclusion of features for handling views and web-specific responses. In summary, use ControllerBase for API development. Use controller when building web applications that require both APIs and views. When to use what? Use ControllerBase if you're building a pure API with no need to return HTML views. For microservices or backend services exposing RESTful endpoints. Use controller if you're building a web application where you need both APIs and view rendering. When combining MVC views and API functionality in one controller. Example for ControllerBase. API controller. Route. API/controller. Public class products controller. ControllerBase. HTTP. Public IAction result get products. var products equals new list string, laptop, mobile, tablet. Return OK products. Example for controller. Public class home controller. Controller. Public IAction result index. Return view. HTTP get API/products. Public IAction result get products. var products equals new list string, laptop, mobile, tablet. Return OK products. Conclusion. Use ControllerBase for APIs to keep your project lightweight and focused. Use Controller if you need to mix API endpoints with web page rendering capabilities.